Hello, good morning. Here we are for another episode of Mental Health Mondays. We are on episode number 17. Holy moly. This is where we talk to professionals that are in the mental health space, or somebody who experiences or lives with a mental health challenge, or mental health advocates. And I am so excited to bring my Heather on today to give us some information about nutrition and wherever the conversation goes, because that's what we do on Mental Health Mondays. Make sure if you're joining in now, make sure that you're subscribing so that you don't miss another Mental Health Monday, and leave your comments. If you have any questions that pop up while we're chatting, if you give StreamYard permission, then we can actually see your comments. So let me bring Heather up. Hi, Heather.
How's it going?
Thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate you.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me. Are you kidding?
Absolutely. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. I know it's a mouthful. What does it mean? It means I'm a health detective. It means that I use functional lab work to get to the root causes of people's issues instead of just throwing band-aids at symptoms, right? After 27 years of undiagnosed Lyme disease, mold issues, celiac, Hashimoto's, endometriosis, 2 stints to the psych ward for suicide attempts. My son had also had 2 stints in the psych ward for suicide attempts. And my uncle actually did kill himself when I was 4. So mental health is very much, it's something I'm very, very, very passionate about, because it's something that's touched like every aspect of my life from a very, very young age. So yeah, I mean, I work with folks on rebuilding lifestyle. A lot of times, especially these autoimmune diseases that are happening these days, I'd say 85-90% of it is lifestyle changes. We've just gotten way off the mark of how humans are supposed to live, right? And so I become like that foundational coach, right? What kind of water are you supposed to be drinking? What kind of food should you be eating? How much sleep should you be getting? What kind of toxins are in your environment? All that kind of fun stuff. And make real, lasting change for the rest of your life. It's kind of like a how-to guide, right? Of how to take care of yourself.
I love that you call yourself a detective, right? Like it's not just, I'm going to ask you what's going on and you give me a list of all these symptoms and then you're like, here's a Band-Aid, right? Like you actually do more investigating to really figure out what's going on. And that's why when you and I first talked, I was like, wow, yeah, I have no idea what the heck your title means, but that's really cool, right? And so the more I learn, I think it just the cooler it gets, for sure.
You should see me on test result days when I finally get my test results back from my clients. It's like Christmas to me, right? Because how many of them have been to doctor after doctor after doctor, and each doctor have told them, well, your lab results look fine, but they feel anything but fine. So then that just kind of adds to their mental health issues, right? Because now they do feel like maybe they're not right? Maybe they do feel like something's, because they're not being validated from the Western, medicine model of, yeah, no, there's something going on here. So I love like when test day comes, because then I get to show them, oh, do you see that pyrrole disorder that you're really elevated? That's a deficiency in zinc and B vitamins. And those things are absolutely needed for mental health, or do you see this, blah, 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 I just can go on and on and on. But I have a blast on a test result day. It's like Christmas, giving them the gift of validation, right?
Right. And so when you talk about test results, I know that you already explained that to me, but can you explain kind of what that means for our audience that will be watching also?
Yeah, absolutely. So like the big, with any kind of health stuff, there's always layers to it, right? And for the longest time being an FDN, I only focused on like the labs and the physical. And where that kind of fell short this last year was never addressing like the hidden trauma in my nervous system. And there are some biological issues that can actually leave us to be more susceptible to trauma, right? To have some of these mental health issues. So like I test for pyrrole disorder. And so pyrroles are a byproduct of oxidative stress. Almost everybody, unless you were eating really clean and you've got, and got a handle on your stress, right? You've got the inflammation down. Most people have oxidative stress. And so this, and it's like a genetic component, it leaves you more susceptible to having issues with these guys. And so your body can't do anything with pyrroles but get rid of them. And when they're on their way out of your body, like I said, they like to suck up zinc and they like to suck up B vitamins, B6 and P5P, which is the activated form of B6 to be exact. And so, I have found that a lot of folks that I'm testing that have a history of anxiety, depression, ADHD, schizophrenia, a lot of them have this pyrrole disorder. And so all the therapy in the world is not going to undo this deficiency at a cellular level, right? No healthy diet, for the longest time, I think it was the other thing that kept me digging so deep is because, I even belong to that. I'm kind of woo-woo spiritual, right? And so there's this huge, think positive, this positive. And after a while, that started making me feel like I was more crazy because I was like, why can't I think my way out of this? Why can't I just be positive enough not to be depressed, right? Why do I keep thinking about checking out? And then, come to find out there's this toxic positivity, this spiritual bypassing, right? Of not feeling your feelings. And so it's that's tied into that. I swear I didn't go off on a tangent. So these very biological deficiencies, they play a huge part on how well you can think positive, on how well therapy is going to work for you. Because I'm not knocking therapy. I think therapy absolutely has its place. But I think when we just use that as the only tool, right, along with prescription drugs, I think there's a huge market that aren't being served.
Yeah, no, and it definitely, I mean, so as you were saying that, I'm just thinking the people that I know that go to the doctor, right, and they give just a Band-Aid, like they give them some sort of prescription, then the prescription causes this, and then so they give another prescription that causes this, and then another that causes this, and really like all along, it's just, I feel like starting to cloud what's actually going on and causing even more mental health challenges along the way. So I love that you get to that like root cause, and it's not like I'm going to go give you all this information and then walk away, right? Like you're there to help support and guide them, whether it be nutrition, whether it be supplements, whether it be whatever it is, and you're able to help that too.
Oh, absolutely. So the FDNs use what's called a dress for success model, and it's diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplementation. And typically we work for folks that, for 90 days. Because if we put into practice the stuff that we teach you, 9 times out of 10, like a lot of people are making huge turnarounds in a very short period of time. Because when you give the body what it needs, right, all things come back online. Of course, if you're living in like a moldy environment, right, all the supplements and good health and good diet in the world's not going to help. There's other things at play, but also a good FDN will stick with you to continue to like look under all these different rocks to keep searching for the answer for you. I have a guarantee in my program that if you show up and you do what I lay out in front of you, and we're not significantly better by the end of the 90 days, like I will continue to work with you until we do figure it out, because sometimes there's bigger things at play, and 85% of the times it's lifestyle.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think for me, I know like I have a lot of allergies. I always have since I was little. And I have heard a lot more so like from people like the mold thing, right? Like I was tested for mold and I'm allergic to mold, like mold and dust. I feel like everybody is allergic to mold. That's just me. I don't know. But
there are some people that have a genetic disposition to be more sensitive to mold. There's hundreds of different mold species out there. Not all of them are toxic, and not everybody reacts to them the same way. So, but if you do have a leaky gut or a gut dysbiosis, if you do have a lot of stress in your life, right, that kind of lowers your immune system. So there's different factors that play into that. But yeah, I mean, you would think that we shouldn't be reacting to dust the way that we do. But like I said, everybody's got a bucket, right, of toxins that they can handle. And some people's buckets are bigger than others due to genetics, due to trauma, due to, a few other things. And so sadly, if you're one of those that got a smaller bucket, right, something like dust, EMFs, food, um, eating out, processed food type of stuff. Like I'm one of those where my genetic bucket is really small. And like I have to be a saint. Otherwise I feel it immediately. It's ridiculous. And I fought it for a long time. But now that everything is working so well, I don't fight it, because now when I look at that, I don't see temptation. I see like a caution tape, police tape wrapped all around that, taco and French fries and a beer, it's no longer tempting to me.
Yeah, I can only imagine that, like, when your body is actually functioning at the level that it's designed to function at, it just feels so much different, and the perspective is going to be life changing for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I I always say that I'm really bad at diets, and that I have a seafood diet. I see food and I eat it. And I know that that's a lot of like the beliefs and the patterns that I put into my head, right? Or I'm too lazy to make food, or it's just easier to go out or whatever, right? Like those thoughts that pop up more often than probably not. But I do know when we're eating better food, I feel better. So I know that there's a direct correlation. I just have never explored it myself, but I know lots of people in my life that probably could have a huge benefit with exploring this.
Oh, absolutely. And so some of the language that you were using, like lazy and stuff like that. And I want to correct you, if I may.
Of course.
We humans were not made to live this lifestyle that we're living right now. So it's not being lazy, back 50, 60 years ago, when it was a one income, you could live off of one income, right? We weren't meant to work 40 hours a week and do all the cleaning and the house chores and the cooking and the meal prep and the grocery shopping. It's ridiculous. And I'm very lucky that I have fought so hard for my health and my mental health that I advocate very strongly in my home for others to pitch in. Like if I'm working 40 hours a week and you're working 40 hours a week, bud, then you better be, splitting the rest of the stuff right down the middle with me. And he does. He's amazing. He's seen some huge changes in his own health since we've been together. And so, and he doesn't feel like that I should, have to do all of this. Like it's his health too, right? He needs to take responsibility for that. So I've gotten very lucky that I have a partner that does meal prep with me, that does grocery shopping with me, that will cook, 2 to 3 times a week and kind of, give me a break type of thing. But no, it's when people realize that this kind of lifestyle is what's making them sick, right? And then they start to unwind things back. You set up different ways of success in your household than it was before, because otherwise you're exhausted, right? At the end of the day, you're carting kids around, you're doing this. So of course you're not going to take the time out at 7:00 at night to cook a homemade meal from scratch, right? Yeah. But if maybe you would have looked at your calendar, maybe a day before and been like, oh, I should really make a bigger batch of dinner tonight, so that way I have some leftovers for, something, little hacks like that, or incorporating help of the kids or the spouse or the partner, right? It really shouldn't be put all on us. And that always drives me bonkers. But so don't, like I said, I feel bad when people are like, oh, I'm just lazy, or I don't know how to blah, blah, blah. Well, of course you don't. We weren't taught, and we weren't meant to have this type of a lifestyle. Like it's absolutely insanity. The way that we push and pile. It's sad.
Yeah, I've more recently heard a lot of people say that we're putting such a priority on being busy. Like it's like the cool thing to be busy, but it just adds more stress, as you can see. But no, I think that's a great point, that we're not really meant to live this lifestyle. I mean, there's lots of other countries out there that they take a whole month off. Like everybody takes a whole month off, right? But only in America do we like work 60 to 90 hours, and we glorify that instead of making that shift. And I mean, obviously, like you and I as entrepreneurs and having our own business, right? Like we have a little bit more flexibility, and there is maybe a little less stress in a way, but that's like you said, like you fought for so long to make that change because you knew that it was going to be important. And I am also very lucky. My partner, he does a lot, like he does all the laundry. We always split. He actually probably cooks more than I do most of the time, you know? So I am very lucky in that fact. But the flip side is almost because I work from home. So I'm always at home and I'm like, I need to get out of this place. So then you have that like flip side of, yes, I'm able to take my son to school. I'm able to pick up my son from school, but then I'm constantly at home and not really ever leaving. So that kind of adds another stress, but that's like a whole nother conversation that we can have. I am curious. Tell me a little bit more about, other than the health challenges that you were going through, like what really got you into wanting to be a FDN?
Oh, I mean, that was the big one. You know, my kid was celiac. He was diagnosed celiac at the age of 2. And all the doctors ever told us to do was just to stay away from wheat. That was it. Never explained the importance of whole foods. And we just ended up swapping out gluten-free regular processed crap for gluten-free processed crap. And now, he got diagnosed at the age of 2, and now at the age of 9, like he can't sleep at night. He's having issues with frequent urination, issues with mood disorders, starting to show this depression, anxiety, kick in. He used to mutilate his thumbs, just by picking. And so it was between that and then me, gaining weight again. I was in a ton of pain again. I was wanting to check out again. And so it was like the two together really kind of lit my fire. I had just gotten diagnosed with Lyme disease, and I was going the traditional route, and all the doctors were doing for me was throwing napalm at the Lyme disease. They were doing nothing to support the host, right? I seriously thought they were going to kill me. And that's kind of when I pivoted, and I heard the founder of FDN, Reed Davis, speaking on a podcast, and he was talking about balancing hormones, healing the gut, making sure your detox pathways work, all this support. And I was, and intuitively, it just made sense to me. I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is the puzzle piece to my healing. And it has been, and it's been an awesome journey ever since. And it's constantly, the beautiful thing about this industry is there's no shortage of stuff to learn. Like I love to research. So I mean, I geek out on this stuff for fun on a regular basis. Like right before I jumped on here, I was in the middle of making slides for my new toxins webinar that I'm doing. I did a webinar on food and mood, like you were just talking about at the beginning, how when you eat things, you'll notice it makes difference on your mood that day. So I'm constantly trying to stay on that cutting edge, because like I said, this spiral disorder thing that's pretty new, recent, trauma, and having a trauma informed practitioner, that's pretty new, cutting edge type stuff. Most people haven't been talking about the stuff that's stored in your nervous system and how that needs to be healed. So it was just going through another layer of my own health journey with my kiddo at the time that really threw me into this work, because I just, a lot of times people come to me when they're, at their rock bottom, and that's where I was at my rock bottom. There was a fork in the road, and I knew if I kept going this way, I was going to be dead. So it was time to go this way and see where this road led.
Yeah, it's usually an experience that happens, and then that leads you on this new pathway. And I know that, especially like the first time you and I talked, I was like, wow, it's just so amazing. I mean, to know your story and understand that you recognize, one, what was happening with your kid, and then also happening with you. And you're like, something's got to change, right? Like we can't continue on this path. And knowing that there's a lot of mental health challenges in you and him and other family members. And It just leads you in this journey that you never thought you would go through, but it probably has been the best experience that you've been traveling.
Oh, absolutely. And the gift that I can give others, when I get to see and bring others through a 90-day journey and they've lost weight and they have energy and their brain works again. A lot of folks have given up hope, because they're on 5 or 6 prescriptions. They've been to the doctors, told them that their labs look fine, but here, let me write this to, help with your symptoms. And then they're on another one because of those symptoms, the side effects, right? So to be able to give that gift to others, like what a blessing, what a calling. Like, it's amazing. And it's what it keeps me fueled passionately, and it keeps me fueled, like just anger sometimes, because what I see going on in the world, the commercials that I see, this talk I'm doing on toxins, the amount of toxins that are released into our system, are in our environment on a regular basis, that are unregulated, that are causing so many health issues. It's disgusting. And so it keeps my fire burning on both sides. Like,
Yeah. That's even an interesting conversation too, is like the whole toxic conversation. And sometimes we don't know until we know, right? Like, I didn't know, I went to a Tony Robbins event and he talked about aluminum in deodorant, and then I started noticing like how much aluminum is in things that I use, like body lotion and my deodorant. And from there I was like, that's interesting to me. So I started using aluminum free, right? Like, I don't know if that's helpful or not, but I know that like my skin feels better and I don't feel like my I forgot what, in your armpits.
your limbs.
Yes, my lymph. Thank you. I'm like, those things. I don't feel like they're as like swollen, So there has been some benefits, but it's hard to eliminate, like completely eliminate all the toxins. Do you have any ideas or thoughts?
So there's a little bit of a language loop around there, what you said. It's really not, but you just need to take it step by step. Like in this talk that I'm giving, I tell people, give yourself a year to say, I'm going to completely clean things out, right? And then like with the aluminum, like what you did, are all personal care products. When you run out of something, swap it for the healthier alternative. When you run out of something else, swap it for a healthier alternative. Don't go out and try to do everything all at once, because you'll drive yourself crazy and you'll spend a small fortune. But if you start off with just your deodorant and then your lotion, and then stop cooking with aluminum foil, stop drinking out of aluminum cans. Like I love all my health conscious folks who don't quite know and they love their LaCroix, and it's better than a soda. Absolutely. It's better than a soda. And at the time that I did a hair tissue and mineral analysis on myself, the only aluminum that I was getting in my diet was from LaCroix, and I had still quite a bit showing up in my system. And so aluminum likes to accumulate in the brain, and so a lot of Alzheimer's, dementia type of stuff, Parkinson's, can be linked to accumulation of aluminum in your system. Wow. And that's the sad part with like toxins, especially, is because it takes decades of accumulation to show up, right? So, I mean, they say an ounce of prevention, right? And I swear, I would love to talk to 20-year-olds, but if 20-year-olds could hear me, because a lot of times they can't, they have energy and they feel good, and it doesn't make sense to them. That's not going to happen to me, blah, blah, blah. To where, sadly, people in their 40s, like myself, that's when they start seeing some of these cognitive issues, these memory issues, their forgetfulness. And then it's like, you don't think anything of it. That's the beginning of the stuff that's been accumulating in your system for the past 2 decades, right? So it can be reversed. It takes a minute, it doesn't happen overnight, and it's definitely easier, right? If you start younger, or if you have these things in play to begin with. So I just, aluminum is one I highly, if you can start picking away and getting rid of all the sources of aluminum in your system, in your house, in your environment, awesome. But just like I said, so over a year, I switched out water filters. Over a year, I got an air filter. Over a year, I, fill in the blank. But it didn't happen overnight. But it's, small baby steps.
I didn't even, that just blew my mind, because like, yes, I did that with deodorant and with my lotion, but like we cook on aluminum foil not regularly, but often. Like we do broccoli and chicken, which is like one of our favorites, and we cook it on aluminum foil. And then yeah, I didn't even that didn't even go through my head. I'm like, oh wow. And then like so we go also to the Mammoth game, and they've switched over all of their cups to aluminum recently. And so those are the only ones that you can get now versus the plastic. And I don't know if plastic is any better than aluminum. So
No, and so that's the funny thing is, so when you can clean up your house really, really well, then when you go outside of the house and you have these little exposures, it's not going to be as hard. Makes sense?
yeah.
You know, because there are sometimes when you go out into the real world that you can't, and you're human and you just got to be, right? And so I try to make as smart choices as possible when I'm out. And sometimes I just can't get away from it. There's no other choice but blah, blah, or blah, blah, you know, and it depends on how bad I want it. But yeah, so if you were to clean this stuff up, and that was hard in the beginning because I used to cook a lot in foil packets as well. But now I'll cover, you know, the way around that sometimes is to use parchment paper and then cover it up in aluminum if you absolutely have to cover, you know, cook in aluminum. But yeah, I just try to figure out other ways of cooking, kind of get that stuff out of your system, out of your house.
Yeah, I mean, I think I really only use it for the non-stick purpose anyways, so I could just merely cook on a on a plate or something, right? Like instead of
yeah, anytime you get non-stick, that you're looking at toxins. Massive toxins. There's a phenomenal documentary I just watched last week called The Devil That We Know. And it's all about DuPont and Teflon and the health issues, the environmental issues, and it's still going on today. And
wow.
It's sad. It'll piss you off and it'll make you sad, but hopefully it'll just kind of wake you up a little bit to some of these things that we're using day to day that we think are safe because we think our government's got our back.
Right.
I digress.
Right. Well, what is a good thing to cook on? I mean, now that you say that.
Caster, oh my gosh.
Cast iron?
Cast iron, thank you.
Yeah.
And stainless steel.
Okay. All right.
Glass, Pyrex.
Okay. No. That makes sense.
Yeah,
what about
plastic? It's going to leach. Teflon is absolutely horrific, especially if you want to keep your brain. And disrupts hormones. What else? What were you going to say?
Oh, I was just thinking, I just forgot what they're called, but like Pampered Chef, they have a whole bunch of like bakers.
Oh, like stones, cooking stones?
Yeah.
I love my cooking stones.
That's good to know that's a good, because I do have a lot of those. I just don't use them very often. So I should break those out.
Yeah, absolutely. I love my cooking stones.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more. I know you said you just did the food and mood, and then you have this toxic talk coming up. Tell us a little bit more about that.
About which one? About what?
Well, I know that you do these fairly often, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to get 2 out there a month. You know, I did one a month ago on talking shit, the shocking truth about chronic constipation, right? Because talk about toxins, right? If you're constipated, you're toxic. And then I did one, a couple weeks ago on anxiety and depression and some of the natural solutions to overcome anxiety and depression. So yeah, I try to do these free workshops every couple weeks. The toxin one is actually going to be one that I put into my program as a bonus, or that people can buy for $49, and they have access to the slides and the talk all the time. And then like the food and mood one, that was an interview that I did for a magazine that actually got picked up by the city of Fort Collins, who want to pay me to do a talk to the city of Fort Collins employees to do a little bit more education on how food and the gut and how it affects your mood, and you know how more people these days are starting to understand like gut health, right? They've heard the term leaky gut, right? And I tell people, if you've got a leaky gut, you've also got a leaky brain. Sadly, because they're very connected and very similar tissue. And so if you have things that are attacking your gut lining, you have things that are attacking your blood-brain barrier in your brain and causing inflammation and causing that immune system to kick up and cause collateral damage, because you're eating apples, which are in your bloodstream now. They don't belong in your bloodstream. but you have a leaky gut, right? So now your immune system has been waking up and it's shooting at the apples, but then there's collateral damage of the tissue that it's shooting at around the apples. And so that's another reason for food and mood and inflammation, and the fact that like 80% of our serotonin is made in our gut, right? And so there's all these connections back to the gut that affect the brain and affect mood and depression, anxiety, ADHD, all that fun stuff. My stepson was one that I loved working with this last year. He was like crawling out of his skin, couldn't sleep at night, on ADHD meds, failing school, face was broken out horribly. Took him off of grains, took him off of dairy, got inflammation off of his body, off of his gut, started healing his gut, gave him a few supplements. Within a month and a half, no more ADHD meds. Face started to clear up, sleeping. He was putting himself to bed at 10 o'clock every night. And his grades started to turn around. So it's amazing what happens. So that's the other sad part about a lot of mental health and the way that we treat it is we try to just go after the brain. Mm-hmm. And really we need to be looking more at the gut.
Yeah, I never knew the importance of the gut until I was having migraines pretty consistently. And then, I mean, I know that it was more based off of hormones also, because I had a shift in what I was taking birth control wise, but I didn't even know that the gut at that point was something that I needed to worry about. And when I started utilizing supplements that were good for my gut, it just changed everything around. And I will maybe have a migraine once or twice a year at this point, which is where I was at anyways when I was younger. But it was almost for a month and a half straight that I was having one every single day. And when I started going, like actually paying attention to my gut health, it changed everything. So yeah, that can be huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to work with you and or take your workshops, tell us a little bit more about how they can find you.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually have a program launch that started today. It's a spring enrollment for the 90-day Discovering Hope program. It's 90 days to, find my notes. Find your focus, reduce chronic pain, lose unwanted weight, and address embarrassing gut issues in 90 days or less. So you can find me on discoveringhealthfdn.com, my website, Facebook, Discovering Health FDN, same thing with Instagram. A lot of the videos and some of the workshops are up on my YouTube channel, Discovering Health. So yeah, you start typing in Discovering Health FDN, you'll find all kinds of ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome. And I put all the links in the comments. So if you want to find Heather, you can find her that way. Any last tips, tricks, advice, things you want to share?
Yeah, actually, you kind of had said it last time. You had reminded me to say this when you're talking about your symptoms. And so I like to say, no matter how common a symptom may be, it is never normal, right? Mm-hmm. So living with migraines every day, it's not normal. And even once or twice a year, I'd still say maybe dig a little deeper, right? To kind of figure out what's going on there. Because yeah, no matter how common a symptom may be, it is never normal. It is always our body's check engine light coming on. And sadly, with a lot of this over-the-counter and prescription stuff, all you're doing is putting a piece of tape over that check engine light instead of looking at things deeper. So don't give up. Continue to dig. I mean, life can be so incredibly amazing when everything's working properly. And it absolutely sucks when nothing does work. So I get it. And just don't give up.
Awesome. Well, I so appreciate you coming on today. This was a great conversation. And I know that lots of people will be able to watch this and go back and listen more. And if you want to find Heather, again, all her information is in the comments. So I appreciate you coming on today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, y'all. That was another episode of Mental Health Mondays, where we talk to people who are in the mental health space, those that experience or live with a mental health challenge, and or advocates for mental health. Again, make sure you like, subscribe, share, tell all your friends, and we can't do this without you or your help. So make sure you go and sign up to become a warrior for mental health, our monthly donor program. You get these awesome shirts. As if you donate $20 or more per month. And that just allows us to bring you more education, bring you more amazing guests, bring more information. That's how our nonprofit is supported, is through the Warriors for Mental Health campaign. And again, it's only $20 or more per month. And that gives you a cool shirt. And also, we will be back next Monday, same time, same place, 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time on Mondays, bringing you some more incredible guests. If you want to be a guest yourself, reach out to us. Again, all of that information is in the comments. So be sure that you like and subscribe and share, and we'll see you next week. Bye, y'all.